everyone, and welcome to the 24th episode of Slime Time, the official Dragon Quest Dragon's Den podcast. This is Plattym3.
And this is Liamland. So you might be wondering why Platty just said the 24th episode of Slime Time when this is the 23rd one we've actually published. So those of you listening soon after this release are probably puzzled by that. We do have a reason behind it.
Yeah, it's partly my dyscalculia. It made getting a math major a total bitch in college.
Don't you hate that when things go out of sequence, like Final Fantasy 2 is 4 and 3 is 6? But anyway, we did record a 23rd episode in August, but it actually did require some extra editing.
Yeah, way too many swear words.
Yeah. Platty dropped a lot of F-bombs on that one, so it required a complete retooling. So anyway, while that one's being processed, we hope to have that one out to you very soon. We just wanted to keep the production rolling with our next episode.
Yeah, see, episode 23 actually tested positive for COVID. Totally shut down the production for 2 weeks or more.
Is that a Batman reference?
I think it's a Twilight reference.
Oh yeah, he just revealed we had Robert Pattinson on the podcast last week.
And, you know, his whole being a vampire and everything. And now the FBI is totally giving us a runaround, censoring what we can share with you at this time. So it wasn't Robert Pattinson. I can't exactly say who we had on, but let's just say it rhymes with ninth, silver, purple, dangerous wolf, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink.
I rarely do. Well, we do have episode 23 coming soon, but for now, let's keep it rolling with episode 24.
Yes, and joining us tonight, we have a Dragon's Den regular and a YouTuber and Dragon Quest VI Let's Player whose name rhymes with free phone or playtester.
Please welcome FionordeQuester to the party.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Doing great.
Well.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Welcome, Fiona Day. We're looking forward to this episode's discussion. So, full disclosure, this is a pretty divisive game we're about to get into. Platty and I have both divided opinions about it. So we're going to be thoroughly discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly on this one.
May have to take a couple extra weeks to edit the F-bombs out of this one. But before we do that, I think we'll keep it clean here and get to know our guest. So, Fiona Day, how did you come up with your username?
Because I'm a gigantic nerd, that's how. It was just some Diablo 2 novelization I read where, like, the main hero was FionordeQuester and his father was FionordeQuester, and, you know, little kid me, I just thought, ooh, syllables! That's going to be my username for the rest of my life, and so it stuck.
Nice.
As is one to happen.
So how did you originally get into the series?
My very first one, I think, was Dragon Quest III for the Game Boy Color. You know, when you're little, you go to the casino, win like 1,000,000 coins, and then lose every single one of them, but through random encounters, and you don't learn anything. And then there's Dragon Warrior Monsters, which I just played the heck out of back in the day. That's my introduction. And ever since, I kept learning as I get older. There was just more and more that Dragon Quest offered in its boss fights and everything that most RPGs didn't even dream of.
I know, like, being young and playing through that, 8 different metamorphosizing of the boss in Dragon Quest IV, that was always cool.
Yeah.
Sorrow.
And plus, like, they put so much thought into things like fixed attack patterns, semi-fixed attack patterns, or bosses just have, like, 2 different sets of scripts they can do. Like, kind of hard to explain without going into detail, but trust me, the game designers put a lot of thought into their boss fights. They really did.
That's something I really liked on your YouTube video, where you would have that on the screen where you were fighting the bosses in Dragon Quest VI. You'd have the patterns listed up there, that what was going to happen or what was happening with this boss at the time. That was really cool.
Thank you.
You did actually talk about as well how the bosses attack one character, or they choose someone to kind of wail on.
Yeah. That, for example, is Second Test. especially as in the SNES version. He just chooses a guy with the lowest HP and just hits them over and over. Kind of a jerk move, but
Yeah.
okay. Old school.
Nice.
Kick them in the nuts, man. Kick them while they're down.
Although that got really annoying when you were going through Murdaw's castle and you found some more of those orange sword and shield guys. They did the exact same thing. And it was right before Murdaw.
Yeah, not a good lead up to a harder fight.
No, they took that out in the DS version though, so they had some mercy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what were some of your favorite games throughout the Dragon Quest series? What you started with, obviously the Game Boy Color, but what have you gone back to? Since you probably played almost all of them at this point, what are your favorite games, like mainline, spin-off? What do you love?
That's really hard to say because I like them in different ways. So I'll say which one has my favorite which.
Okay.
Dragon Quest IV, I think, is the best designed. Well, the remakes. The NES version, you have that whole can't control your party thing, which I'm sorry, but that kind of stinks. But like the remakes of Dragon Quest IV is probably the best just from a practical viewpoint. Like if I was writing a paper on which was better, I would probably say that one. Dragon Quest V has the best story, I would say. Dragon Quest VIII, probably best presentation with the voice acting and gorgeous 3D world and all that. Dragon Quest VI is the one I actually love the most because it has flaws, but they're flaws I've worked around, and the things I love about it, I really love about it. So, especially the boss fights. Those are awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Do you have any favorite spin-off games from the series?
Oh, favorite spin-offs. I haven't played a lot of them, but the one I have the most nostalgia for is Dragon Warrior Monsters. Like, that was the very first one, and I think that was a lot of people's first, right?
I mean, I've started back on the NES days with Dragon Warrior 1, so.
Yeah, same here. I mean,
Oh.
people have different entries into the series. I mean, there's even new people coming in from the Smash reveal of Hero and Smash who are playing like 11 or some of the earlier games for the first time. So yeah, it depends on like when you come to the series. But yeah, Dragon Warrior Monsters is definitely a good intro to like the spin-off series.
I know our frequent guest Yangus, that's where he came in around the Game Boy Color time. It's a lot of also age, us people in our 40s who remember the NES games, the late 20s. Early 30s people are like, oh yeah, Game Boy, that's when we started playing.
Yeah, I feel like the monsters games would be really rewarding if you know some of the monsters already though, because then you have that kind of nostalgia tie-in with like the mainline series as well. But there's also a lot of really cool like breeding stuff that you can do and combinations. I would find it impossible to play without a guide because I was constantly looking on GameFAQs. I played Monsters a bunch of times, but never actually beaten it until January this year, and like where I just sat down and just plowed through it, and I was stuck to that GameFAQs guide, that monster guide. I don't remember which one it is now, but it was like a really thorough breeding guide that just basically tells you everything about the paths you need to get to like different monsters. And I got my Dragon Lord monster, and I fought Dragon Lord with the Dragon Lord, which I thought was pretty funny. Like the version that you fight of Dragon Lord is like way bigger than your version.
Nature versus nurture?
Yeah, it was like fighting Dragon Lord's father with his like child.
That's still not as much of a mind screw as marrying Wadabo with Mortimer.
What do you breed from that?
I don't know. Apparently, it's a giant muscle man with an 8-pack or something.
Oh, really? One of the bullhead helmet guys, the toughies.
Yeah. For those who don't know what we're talking about, you breed Dark Dream from Mortimer 3 and Wadabo. So
gotcha.
I don't know how that worked, but apparently you do.
Yeah,
Hey, speaking of Dragon Warrior monsters, isn't it interesting how a lot of Dragon Quest VI characters actually show up in the Monsters series as well? Like when I first played Dragon Quest VI, like one of my first thoughts was, oh, so that's what the whole jerkish swordsman looking for the ultimate sword bit was about. The missing sister, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, well, it came out of it was essentially a prequel to Dragon Quest VI.
Exactly.
It came out 3 years after, I think. Three years after, I think. The Super Famicom version of 6 was 1995, I want to say, and Monsters was 98.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then they went away from it a little bit with Monsters 2 because there was a big gap between 6 and 7. But then Monsters 3 turned right around and had Kiefer from 7 leading your caravan.
Oh yeah, they did have that, huh?
Little young Kiefer.
So we were talking about monsters and characters before. Do you have any favorite monsters or specifically characters?
Hold on a minute.
Let me get my Rolodex out.
This is... I need to change that ringtone. Anyways, I would say that my favorite character is probably the man-at-arms. You know, the one that you fight in the burning village with like the 4 swords and everything.
Oh yeah, the skeleton with all the arms.
Yep.
Like that guy is so intimidating. Like I'm used to Akira drawing human characters, and like people are always joking about how he knows like 4 faces, 4 hairstyles and all that. You dig into his monster designs though, and that guy can design a monster. I'll tell you what.
How about favorite character?
Favorite character? I think Millie is actually pretty memorable for a lot of different reasons. Her backstory, as much as I didn't like it, her party chat dialogue where she's sort of this gentle spirit but has a really large sarcastic streak if you look in the right places. And a lot of this is probably localization, but like a lot of the characters have really cute and clever lines too. Probably my favorite though is Yangus or Carver. Just the lovable oaf types I just find so endearing. Sorry if that didn't make a lot of sense.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So out of the Dragon Quest games, what are and we're talking about a game that has like all these mechanics in it this time. What are some of your favorite mechanics in Dragon Quest games, whether it be monster collecting, job classes, casinos? What do you really love when
without a shadow of a doubt, the auto battling thing where you can choose whether to control them manually or whether you can choose to put them on an AI setting, and then you fool around with it and it turns out that the AI setting is like precognitive in some ways, where like someone will be at full HP when they get hit, and then during that same round, the AI guy will heal them, and I'm like, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely a step forward from the old days where if 2 characters are attacking one monster and the first kills it, the other one just attacks air. Instead, that's basically all the NES games. And then at some point, I forget which game they did this, but at some point they actually wised up and just had him attack a random other monster.
My most irritating point on that is that the Dragon Warrior 4 party actually could be smart if like 20 rounds passed in the battle, Christo would finally stop casting beat. But I was just like, why can't they just be smart to start with?
That's probably because after 20 rounds he was out of MP.
Yeah. Couldn't you change the tactics though, so he was more healer focused and less thwacky?
You could. I never had a problem with him. I said this on I think I told Westy this. I know I told Phil this. I never really had a problem with the AI back in the day. Maybe because I did know other systems, because 1 through 3 didn't have that way, but it was mildly annoying. But I played through it 3-4 times on my NES, and I never had a problem with Christo. He was always my favorite because I had him set as healer. Maybe that's why, because he was the dedicated healer.
Well, if any of you guys out there ever do have trouble with the AI settings, remember, cast Iron Eyes 4 times and it'll be good. They'll suddenly be smart.
Iron Eyes 4 times, but then you have to wait for it to wear off. Isn't that like
there's 16? Your 20 rounds?
Oh, that's it. Awesome.
It cures the AI problem.
Yeah, there's actually a kind of weird glitch, but it's in the Famicom version only of Dragon Warrior 4, where I think if you try to run from battle something like 8 times, then all of your you do it against a boss, all of your attacks then become critical hits. But you'd have to
Yeah,
do that, like
that's
if you were in a fight with doing that against like Sorrow, you'd basically have to survive for like 8 rounds of running away and failing.
Yep, that's the truth. And
Yeah.
I think there was another one involving casino coins or something like that. They have separate speedrun categories just for the Japanese version.
Well, so what was it specifically about Dragon Quest VI that inspired you to do a Let's Play video series?
Well, mainly, for one thing, it was one of the harder Dragon Quest games in the series. Like, there are some beginner traps with, like, say the class system where you could choose to do a sage, which is your typical magic class, or you could do an armamentalist, which was basically still a sage, but worse, except it has oomph near the start, but worse in every other way. Or you could choose a gladiator, or you could choose ranger. And it turns out Ranger isn't particularly good either. And you also have the tough bosses that go with those attack patterns, which I loved talking about. I could go on for ages. So writing a walkthrough and guiding a beginner through those complicated steps was an interesting process. I got a lot of satisfaction from it. And if nothing else, there was a heck of a lot to talk about, even when it was bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I really did like this game a lot. I played it for the first time in college on an emulator, and this was basically because I heard that Dragon Warrior 7 was going to be coming out, and I was like, oh, I can't not play 5 and 6, especially when I found out there were fan translations. So I basically learned about emulation because of Dragon Quest 5 and 6. And started playing these fan translations, and 5 was great, but there was something about 6's design and music and everything that really spoke to me, so I ended up liking this one a lot.
It's interesting, yeah.
No, go ahead.
It's interesting you mentioned the score, because that was one of the other things that was odd about Dragon Quest VI. Like, if you listen to the SNES version, the music is very different from how it normally sounds. Like, there's a lot of synthetic instruments. There's a lot of metallic stuff, like in the tower themes, where it sounds like a hammer is hitting an iron. Like, there's the underwater theme.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different, and the remakes kind of streamlined those compositions with you know what I mean? Like, they have the same instruments for the remakes for 4 and 6.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of folks would actually argue that there's a certain quality superiority in the Super Famicom version than in the DS and mobile remakes, and I believe it. If you listen to the OST, there's just something about that quality that I find more endearing.
Yeah, and it
There's
doesn't
music in
even
the game?
necessarily need to be called superior. Like, you could just call it different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like
more, maybe not superior, but just more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And Platy, I heard your comment. Platy plays all the DQ games with the sound off, so he's never actually heard the music before.
What?
I play 90% of my games on mute. What's funny is I go to play. I review games at rpgamer.com too, and I really have to make an effort to turn the volume on to I'm like, oh crap, I got to comment on the music in this one. I was playing Cthulhu Saves Christmas for review in December before it came out, and I had my whole review ready to go, and I was like, oh my god, I played the entire game on mute, so I had to quickly go on Steam, and I think I paid $1.99 or something or I think they had it on Steam, but somebody had uploaded to YouTube, so we were driving back from my parents' house on Christmas Day, and I just streamed the entire soundtrack so I could hear it all, and it was excellent. I'm like, oh man, I should have actually played that music. Well, I was playing it. Oops. But no, I play almost all my video games at night, and I'm like laying in bed. My wife's asleep, and I could put on headphones, and I'm too lazy at night.
Yeah, and plus, like, sometimes you're playing on the train, or you're trying to do something else, and or maybe you just want to conserve battery.
Right. I would just put headphones on, except for if it's a game like, all right, if it's a game that's heavily grindy, like this one, but I would still enjoy the music in the beginning and then maybe turn it off later on. Like
you've heard that battle theme 100 times.
Yeah. All right. Dragon Warrior 7. Dragon Warrior 7. I grinded Monster Hearts to get the Platinum King Jewel Monster Heart for Gabo, and I spent so much time in that game trying to get all of the necessary Monster Hearts, and the drop rates were so horrible in that game that eventually I just, I had a traumatic experience with that battle music. Every time I hear it, it just takes me back to like the grind, too much grind. And so that's a game that when I was playing the remake, I think I turned the music off on for pretty.
Well, I remember when Dragon Quest XI first came out, my PS4 is in the bedroom, hooked up to the TV on our bedroom wall. Well, I mean, I need to play 100 hours of this game, so my wife's piecing out at around 10 o'clock every night. I'm laying in bed from like 9 to midnight playing every night, and I'm like, this is a new Dragon Quest game. I really want to like listen to the music. And I remember like commenting on the den like, hey, does anybody know like Bluetooth headsets I can run with my PS4 because it's on the TV, but I can't play the music at night. And I think it was about 2 days before someone was finally like, you do know there's a headset jack right in the bottom of the PS4 controller you're holding in your hand.
I do remember someone commenting.
I had no idea. I'd had a PS4 for 2-3 years. Never knew there was that headphone jack right there.
I've actually never used that, though. I should give that a shot.
I mean, it couldn't have been more convenient.
Right.
But oops.
All right. Well, let's actually talk about Dragon Quest VI, the main game of focus.
Good idea.
So you start out, just to paraphrase the entire game in a couple of minutes or so. You start out as a lone blue-haired hero who, in retrospect, looks kind of similar to Eric from Dragon Quest XI. You're in a town, and eventually you meet up with a friend later on named Carver, or Hassan in the original. He's a carpenter, and you find out that the world is not what it seems, and it's actually a dream world. And throughout the game, you find dream versions of your party and reunite them with their real-world selves to solidify their soul and their body together. You build classes and abilities. That this game introduces the abilities attack patterns, which is great. You tackle a boss named Mudo or Murda, only to find out there's an even bigger boss named Death Timor or Mortimer.
The Harry Potter villain.
Yeah. The game gets non-linear. There's a boat that eventually goes underwater. You get a wagon, a flying bed, a little homage to Little Nemo there, a flying carpet, a Pegasus. There's quite a few means of conveyance in this one. There's an optional party member who can Incredible Hulk into the Scrimsley Terror, a purple version of the Drackle. You take down... That's Platty's favorite character, Amos. You take down a Nadirian cult, meet an arrogant swordsman who eventually joins you as a much weaker character than when you actually have to fight him, which is typical. And eventually you take down the big bad final boss with a very satisfying bonus dungeon ending, which I don't know if everyone got to because there were mixed reviews on this game, but I will say that bonus dungeon ending is fantastic and probably one of Dragon Quest's greatest bonus dungeon endings. So it's definitely worth the grind on that one. Definitely worth playing through to take down the bonus dungeon boss. Okay, getting into
on an emulator, fast forwarding.
Yeah. However you do it, it's amazing bonus ending. Okay, so getting to the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good on this one, it definitely had eclectic character designs. The recurring themes in the music make it a little bit more cinematic, in my opinion. I mentioned the satisfying alternative ending. Heartbeat brought a much-needed design upgrade for the original SFC release of this game. It was an upgrade from the Dragon Quest V graphics, which kind of held an homage to the the classic NES days. Platty, what do you got for the good?
Amos.
That's it.
I'll sum it up in one word. Amos. 4 letters. AMOS.
The optional party member is your favorite.
The optional party member. That the second I get him, he goes in the first place in my party, and he is my hero the whole rest of the game.
Even in the Super Nintendo version?
Even in the Super Nintendo version. Gosh, it was really hard to find. I do perler bead sprites of all these guys. I think in the Super Nintendo version, he's just a random NPC sprite, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he's a random soldier, yeah. So
Yep.
They don't even give him a unique sprite.
Doesn't have a unique sprite, so yeah, that was interesting. Now, luckily, the the DS remake sprites are perfectly sized for a 29 by 29 grid, which perler beads standard come with. So I was able to do all the sprites from this DS version instead. So I got a decent Amos there.
Indeed. They also changed his face portrait for some reason between the DS and mobile versions. Did you know that?
I
didn't
know that.
Yeah, how did it change?
Well, in the DS version, like he has this big, wide, beaming smile, and like he's raising his arms above his head, and he just looks like the happiest go lucky guy ever. Mobile version almost looks like a supervillain or something like that. Like he's got this smirk and his eyes are just going in a downward slant to the lower right, and
Maybe he's about to monster out.
maybe.
He's about to release his Incredible Hulk.
Oh, that is not what he looked like in the mobile version.
Oh, for those of you obviously not viewing this at home, I was looking up Amos today, and I think it was because I wrote "Love Amos" in the Google search. I got somebody's Deviant art page, and
Oh no.
he's totally modeling out, and his hand's like halfway down his pants.
Oh, wow, that is supposed to be Amos. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like a see-through
Yes, he's got
sleeveless
he's
tee
got
with
the-
abs. Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's less revealing than some of the bosses you actually fight, like Duran.
Like, yeah, I was going to say Nocturnus, same sprite. Which is hilarious in Dragon Quest IX when you fight Nocturnus. Like, all of the basic sword attacks hit him straight in the crotch, and he still stands. That's also what adds to the fact that he's one of the strongest Dragon Quest bosses of all time.
Oh, it cracks me up every time we talk about stuff like that. I think about what is it? Puff Puff Hour. When they talked Dragon Quest IV, they went on and on and on about Sorrow's codpiece. It just appears during his transformation.
Right.
I was like, what the heck? Now I can't unsee it ever. But, like, that was something like I got to work that day after listening to that episode in the car. I'm like, what are they talking about? What the hell? Like, Google the image. I'm like, yeah, I could see where that could have been that.
All right. So,
what else?
Did you have anything else that you loved about Dragon Quest VI? The good?
I did like this game because it's Dragon Quest. I mean, I joke all the time that it's not my favorite Dragon Quest, but not my favorite Dragon Quest is like, hey, you know what? That's not my favorite ice cream. At the end of the day, it's still frickin' ice cream. It's good. And I've played through this game. I played through the Super Nintendo. I played through the DS. I might have even done that one twice. And then I bought it on iOS, played through it. I was telling my son that we were going to record an episode about this tonight. And he said, Daddy, and he knows the art book pretty well. And he's like, which one was that? And I said, the blue spiky haired hero. And he said, oh yeah. He goes, I don't really remember much about that. And I'm like, well, dude, the last time I played it, you were like 1.5 or maybe just going on 2. It came out in that summer and his birthday's in August. And I just remember playing it quite a bit that summer. And actually, I won a contest through the Square Enix Twitter account and got a free copy of it like 6 weeks after it had already come out. I'm like, well, I already got it. So they were really nice and gave me a $25 iTunes gift card instead.
Dang.
That they had sitting around. I'm like, well, that's worth more than the game was.
For the DS version, I actually went because this had very similar to I think 4 and 5 for the DS had a connection between where you could share characters either in an immigrant town. In this case, it was like dream characters in a dream town.
Oh yeah, I never did anything with the Dream Town.
So I had I went to one of the launch events at Best Buy in Danbury, Connecticut, and I was like one of the only people to show up. This is not,
What? No way.
This is not a very publicized game. The DS release, it went 4, 5, 9, 6. So they introduced 9, which is a big step up from a design standpoint, and then they went back to 6, and I thought it hurt 6's sales a little bit to do it that way. But yeah, so I was there with a Nintendo representative who took my photo holding a Dragon Quest VI poster, and it was just me. I didn't have anyone to trade dreams with. So eventually, I'm still playing the DS version, and I decided I'm gonna I used to using the save editor for Dragon Quest 9, and I found out that there was a kind of like wonky save editor for Dragon Quest 6 as well. So I decided to kind of investigate that. Really pretty buggy, and didn't work very well, and actually bugged up my game trying to add dreams to it. Basically, I mail and swapped with Ignatia 7. He sent me his game, and I tried to copy his dream character from his game to my game, and then I just basically like broke the whole system, and I couldn't tag anymore. So I ended up getting kind of like bummed out about that. Sent him his game back, and then just like never finished playing I felt like I was going to start over at one point, but I never actually finished the DS version because of that. But that's me. That's my. I just got to get back to it at some point. But yeah, they had to swap that out for the mobile release, right? Like did they probably just replaced it with something else, or they just cut it entirely?
I'm not really sure about that. The only thing I know is that they rearranged the location of a few dreamscapes. Like, I think there's 2 in Zenithia that they took out of the DS version. But you actually get solid physical rewards for turning some dreamscapes into the Dreamseer, I think it was. The Fortune Hut. Like 6 dreamscapes will get you a new party, a monster guy, Cure Slime, and 16 will get you a Metal Babble.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I think getting all the way up, and that's why I was trying to rig it. That's why I was trying to hack it into the game, was that I could get a Metal Babble like super early on. Instead of beating Nocturnus, I think is the other way to get it. Is that right? At which point it's like pointless to even have worked that hard because there's nothing left to do.
Well, you get the scroll.
Yeah.
You do get a Metal Babble scroll?
Yeah,
from
it's
the
in
bonus boss.
Right, from the bonus boss, but then what else is there to do after you beat the bonus boss? It's like getting the best sword in the game after you've 100%ed it.
Yeah. Wait a minute. So what was it from the bonus boss that you got the scroll?
I thought.
Well, you get one scroll once you start the post game in.
Correct.
You get one
because
from
there's
the cave.
that there's a little montage when you beat the game, and in the montage it just kind of sweeps through one of the caves that you're in, and you see a shining area.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
And if you go to that shining area, you get the scroll to be the Metal Babble.
Yeah, just don't use it on Barbara or Ashelin.
Yeah, use it on Carver. You do that, and he has Forbearance, and you can just, like, negate most of the bonus boss's attacks. But you have to master it first.
Oh, really?
It takes, like, 300 battles.
Yeah, I ended up using it on Terry, so I could have 2 Medante or Magic Bursts with those 2 characters, Barbara who learns it innately, and then Terry who... well, I guess whoever. But could you get, if you just keep beating Nocturnus, could you get more of them?
If you wanted to.
Oh yeah, but again, then the only thing it would do is make that fight easier.
I mean, Terry did it. Like, you saw him walk into Nocturnus's dungeon in the post-game credits. Oh, do you remember?
I don't remember that,
I don't remember.
Okay, so the credit roll is the same between the regular ending and the bonus ending. It's some beginning scenes that are changed, and it is very satisfying, as they mentioned earlier. But like during the credit rolls, it's mostly the same, except for the Terry scene, where instead of the cave, he's walking up to Nocturnus's altar.
Oh, he's like soloing Nocturnus?
That, or he's giving up his soul to become a Stark or something, because, you know, swordsman, lust for power, and all that. Of course, he's still there when Zenithia rises up with Millie, the fortune teller, and all, so kind of puts a kibosh in that theory, but another day.
Well, also in the good for this game is the slime arena. That was a lot of fun.
Ooh,
That
yeah.
was.
Yeah, I liked having like the entrance door. You just put a slime in front of your party and you walk in, and
Like
the
the
human
little,
the human would
what is
just
it?
smack into the wall and the slime can go straight through.
it's like a slime-sized mouse hole.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, that was really cool, and it was a lot of fun just building up your slime to be able to take down like all these advanced slimes. I thought that was a lot of fun.
You know, I forgot to say earlier, you know, saying that I liked it was Dragon Quest. I think one of the biggest things that pulls at me about this game is it has like everything that I like about the series in it. It's got the monster recruitment, although they kind of nerfed that for the DS remake compared to
It wasn't
the...
that good in the Super Nintendo anyway.
No, it really wasn't. I mean, I guess nerfed it as much. They just went with all slimes in the DS version, right?
Yeah.
Whereas there was some other monsters in the Super Nintendo one. Not that it was definitely not like Dragon Quest V, where you felt that, and you had to have those monsters
I might
at certain
accidentally drop for a bit. Sorry, guys.
times. All right, well, if you need to, that's all right. But I love job classes. They were in this game. I love areas to explore. The fact that there's the two worlds we kind of mentioned when you were given the summary of the dream, and I like that you could go underwater on one of the worlds. So basically, the entire map was open. Not that there was a whole lot to do underwater, but literally you could go everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you went everywhere like land, sea, and air in that game. And yeah, the underwater ship was thoroughly entertaining because you're basically just looking at a negative of the map, and anywhere you couldn't walk before because there were water, and now it's just reversed. The other thing that I really did like about like the good of this game is just the introduction of the rest spell. And the rest spell essentially just puts your character that you cast it on to sleep, so he can walk around and now regain, I think it's step per step, you get 1 HP and 1 MP back. But as the random battles happen, when you start the battle, then your character is asleep. So you don't want to cast it on your whole party at once, but if you have, let's say, 1 or 2 magic users that you're trying to get their MP back up, all you have to do is just set them to rest while the rest of the party handles your damage dealing in the battle when it starts. So
Fiona Day, what are some things that you really loved about this game? Are you on mute, my friend? Oh, no, he dropped off, unfortunately, for a minute. All right, we'll keep talking and get his really goods.
He should be back on in a second. But I did mention the rest spell. They actually had that the next game in Dragon Warrior 7. And then they took it out in the remake, I think because they exchanged the random battles for where the type of map where you see like the monsters on screen. I think it would have been. It would have been
with the what is it? I'm thinking of a sheep. The shepherd class.
Yes. Yeah. The shepherd class. So essentially, it would have been too easy if it was random. If it was not random encounters. If you could just like easily avoid running into monsters by walking around them, then the rest spell would have just been overpowered. So it makes sense that they stripped it out. It was just kind of sad to see it go because I abused that thing so badly in Dragon Warrior 7. I love those things where you can just do stuff like, Erdrick's armor, where you're just walking around healing in the first Dragon Warrior game, and unfortunately that wears off after a while in the sequel. But yeah, just having stuff like that where you have that means to instantly recover your HP and MP. That's why I loved camping so much in Dragon Quest 11. I thought that was a fantastic addition where you don't have to pay to stay at an inn anymore. These are just heroes. They're adventurers. They're used to sleeping outside. So,
I loved Tanya for that.
oh yeah. And any like Erdrick's mom, anyone who lets you stay for free is fantastic.
Oh man, you know what song's going through my head right now?
The old woodcutter. Yeah, Erdrick's mom has got it going on. The old woodcutter in Dragon Warrior 4. Does Madame Luca in 6? Does she let you sleep for free?
She does. And
Yeah.
she gives you free advice in the remakes.
Nice. And she's sort of like her character is sort of in Dragon Quest Your Story.
Is it?
Yeah, like
Oh,
that. Not
that's who,
just the image. Yeah, it's like that little twist where the old lady giving him advice or is actually Flora, but it's like in under the guise of Madame Luca with like a transform spell. But yeah, there was the same type of character design between that like old witch character.
Or fortune teller Baba, as we called her in DBZ.
Nice. Of course.
What,
it's
are
the
you
same
saying there's
design.
similar designs between games, series, universes here?
Pretty much all of the guys in 6 look like characters from the Cell arc. I mean, Millie is Android 18, Carver is Android 16, Terry is Android 17. And then Murda is Cell, of course.
Don't we have the Chrono Trigger hero in here? He's Chrono, right? Is that
what's
with
that?
The red hair?
Yeah, Chrono is the character with red hair. So speaking of Chrono, you have a note here. So for getting into the bad in this game.
Well, before we do that, let's ask FionordeQuester one more time. Anything else that you really loved about this game?
The party chat is amazing. Like that was my biggest regret in doing the Super Nintendo version. Now, Super Nintendo version the remakes give 25% more gold and experience than they did in the original version, which made the game a bit easier, along with the casino being a lot easier to get gear in. So I did the Super Nintendo so that those playing the remakes, the strategies would still work, even on an easier version of the game. But I missed that party chat, man. It added so much.
Yes, I only barely touched the DS version. So I really have to go back and play that one so that I can experience that, because I've played the Super Famicom version almost exclusively. I bought DS and mobile, but I've mostly just played the Super Famicom, so I'm missing out on that, on how they may have drawn out the personalities a lot.
And see, yeah, I'll have to, and I've said this before, the party chat is one of those things, just like music, that I don't always think about it. Like I said, with music, if I turn my game on, it's usually muted, and even if there's no one else around, if I'm going to lay on the couch and play, I'll just forget to turn it on for the whole night and just be laying there with not the music. The party chat's the same thing. I always start out, I'm like, oh yeah, what are they going to say to this? What's the Dragon Quest 7 players going to say about the guy who's peeing on the wall outside the castle? But then 5 minutes later, I forget about it, and it's 2 days later, and I'm like, oh, I just played another 5 hours and haven't done the party chat. So yeah. I am really bad with remembering to do party chat. So even though I've played this twice all the way through, I can probably tell you I've not even seen 10% of the party chat, which is a shame.
And also because Millie is always reminding you of what to do if you forget. She even brags about it in one of the dialogues. She's like, see, I remember everything.
Yeah, I guess they had to replace that the memory mechanic that they had in the Super Famicom version somewhere. So they did it with party chat exposition.
Yep.
We'll get to that in a bit. So moving on to the bad. So this was a game that was a little too non-linear for some players. I can understand that. That seems to be a big point of concern, that you can get lost very easily in the game. And I think that they did try to build something in to help you remember stuff, like that memory mechanic in the Super Famicom version that I mentioned. I can't say that it worked all that well. And this is the type of game that I would recommend playing with a guide or with FionordeQuester's YouTube channel, the Let's Play, and just really understanding the ins and outs of where to go next if you get lost. Take notes based on what people say. Like, there's not too many RPGs I can say that you would have to do that for, but this is probably one of those games where if someone says something that seems like, oh, that sounds like it should be important for later, jot it down. If you're not playing with a guide.
Yeah.
But this came up today because and man, I'm scrolling through the 100 replies at this point. But earlier today with the Slime Time Twitter account, I put up Dragon Quest VI and just said, it seems like this is one of the ones that gets mentioned as it's not my favorite and it's a little bit lacking or something, despite the monster recruitment and the job system and all the other stuff. But what made this lacking to you? And I would say the number one thing is what you just said, Liam. You're just all over the place. There's not a few directions, and there was quite a few number of people that came to the defense of the game, and those people. And I like this Winter Melody was like, because people are foolish, and there was a couple other people that are, you just need to talk to people. Didn't you talk to people? Didn't you get the hints from Madame Luca? Like, she tells you, and
the remake.
Yep. Yeah, but there's quite a few people coming to its defense with that kind of exactly what you said, Sure, it's up there. I mean, some of the other complaints were too much grinding, which I don't really have seen.
I can understand in this one because they had level caps.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would add to the bad as well. Because you unlock, let's say Act 1 is up to where you're facing Murdoch for the first time. If you count that, like the first time you face the final boss, not the intro, but like the first time you face him in the game with your full party. At some point after that is when you, or I think immediately after that is when the Shrine of Dharma opens up in the real world, or in the dream world, but in the real world it's destroyed or something like that. But that's the point where you can start to class change. So at this point you've grinded up so that you could actually fight the first major boss in the game, and now you're already past the level caps in certain areas. So you have to kind of look at a guide to see where the level caps are infinite or 99, so that you can then just go in and job class grind. Because otherwise, if your level's too high and you're in an area, you're grinding around, you're not gaining any jobs, and if you don't know about the caps, then you don't know why that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
My thing about the linearity, I don't think non-linear or linear by themselves are issues. I like Dragon Quest 3 was pretty non-linear too, for example.
Right.
The thing of it is that the game changes. Like, the very first part of it is actually very linear. It's very focused, clear goals, defeat Murdoch. Basically, every single town has at least one person talking about how horrible he is and where you need to go next. And then you beat Murdoch, and suddenly it's just go find the prince somewhere, and it's like, okay,
good luck.
Like, and, it changes. I think that's a big thing.
I was going to say pacing issues. I think is kind of, and the people that explained more than just said pacing issues on Twitter, that's what they kind of said. They're like, you know what, there's times where it's very clear cut, and then times where it's not, and then it is, and then it's not. It kind of throws you a little bit. Like, you think you know what you're doing, and then the next step you don't.
Yeah.
So kind of what you said, I think, is where they're seeing that the linear and then not linear.
Yeah, definitely. And then what else? Were we getting any other feedback besides the non-linear, Platy?
So the characters were not seen as very memorable. Oh, where's the one guy that said it too? I think
was he talking?
Somebody.
Did they mention what version?
There's a few people that talked about the characters. The characters aren't as memorable. Story's a bit confusing, not well balanced. That's from Denizen in the Sky. But where's our somebody? He went in more in depth, but at first, like, all he did was reply with one word: charm. because the way I asked the question is, what's missing or lacking? And someone wrote charm.
Okay.
Just like, oh, I was like, so like, what about it? And then he's like, well, I could go in more. I'm like, hey, we're recording tonight, so if you got something to say, gosh, there's so many replies and Twitter. It's so hard to figure out what you're talking about.
I liked the character designs, but again, like I would have to say that the character personalities are going to jump out depending on which version you play. Like maybe there's less charm in the Super Famicom version than there is in the DS mobile versions. Like what would you think, Fiona? Would you agree with that, or?
I would probably like I said, like the party chat in the remakes really does add a lot. Like like they all have really entertaining quirks, the characters. Like Millie is gentle, but she has this giant sarcastic streak. Like, remember when you get thrown out of the castle by Chancellor Keating?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Millie actually kind of makes fun of the hero for it. She's like, all hail fake Prince Rex. Oh, don't let it get you down. Let's just keep searching for Osmir. That's bound to offer some clues. And then Carver has this apple pie story where someone's talking about bad dreams, and he's like, I know about bad dreams. Once I dreamt that my head had turned into an apple pie. Everyone was trying to eat me, and all that came out of my mouth when I screamed was applesauce. So, yeah.
Have you played him in Dragon Quest Heroes 2?
I haven't purchased those games, actually.
Okay.
Oh, shocker. I've got to fix that right now if I ever want to appear on this podcast again.
That's right. Brother Jaybird has got a lot to tell you about that, let me tell you.
Well, I
Go
was
back
just
to
curious.
A few episodes.
Yeah,
episode,
that was
16 and 17. You can hear about 3 hours of Dragon Quest Heroes talk.
Nice. Yeah, my son was born the year that game came out, or like around the time, so I never ended up like really getting into that one as much as I got into the first one. But I remember Platy and I were talking recently about Carver being in that one, and I was just curious like what kind of voice they gave him, if they gave him a nationality and made him like Australian or something, or British or anything like that. Because I know that they were doing that a lot. Terry, that's Terry, the most arrogant character in all of Dragon Quest, gets the American accent, I noticed.
That's because he was like the only American in that voice cast.
Yeah. No, but was that like was that like a political statement about Americans or something? Like we're I don't know. But anyway.
Well, so you mentioned, and you bringing up the like Dragon Quest Heroes, Dragon Quest 6, other than Terry, where do these characters ever appear in any other Dragon Quest stuff other than Carver and Dragon Quest Heroes 2? You know, Bianca is in like
Millie's
anything that has
monsters as well.
Yeah, so Millie and Terry.
And she is a horribly tough final boss, by the way. Thank you, game, for not letting me choose my actions.
It's probably hard to cosplay as well, because she has those little like the stream parts of her costume. They're like little streamer things, but they always seem to be like static and not moving.
Mm-hmm. That was an interesting perler bead to make. She's gigantically wide compared to everybody else because of those streams that are flowing around.
But all right, so an uninspiring party chat. Do you have any other comments from the Twitter feed you want to mention?
I mean, a lot of people like it. Oh, one of the other big things that came out, and a bunch of people said this, is it came out after Dragon Quest V.
Yeah, no, that.
And as
that
you
makes
and I
sense.
were talking, they followed the Beatles. How the hell are you gonna?
Yeah, it's like following the Beatles. Whereas, like, there were a lot of things, and we will go into this because I do want to mention the Dragon Quest firsts list that we have for this one. But it did do a lot of things better than 5 did. Mechanically, graphically, it was an improvement there, but just an overall.
Oh, you got 4 party members back again.
Yeah, exactly. The first Dragon Quest V for Super Famicom only had 3 party members, reducing from a 4-party system that had been there for 2 games. And it probably could have done that. That was the other thing that my bone to pick with the original version of 5 was that you get all these monster characters plus all the human characters, and you only get 3 party slots. So
Oh yeah, you had more choices in that game than any other game in the entire series, and it's the one that limits you the most.
Yeah, right. But I think
here
when
we
we're
go.
talking
Okay.
definitive edition for that game, I think you got to go with like the remakes on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they did buff some of the bosses a little too much. Like, for example, did you know that Laja only had one attack in the Super Nintendo version? And then, like, 2 in the remakes?
Really?
Yeah, like, when you fight him at that tower with the dragon staff, and he's, like, this really hard boss, right? Because he has Frizzle, which does almost your child's entire HP bar and damage.
As it should.
Yeah, that's because he was only supposed to attack once in the Super Nintendo version. Remakes, they made him attack twice, because I guess you have 4 party members now.
They did a really good job with that character in the movie. Like, say what you will about the movie and the ending and everything, but like in Dragon Quest Your Story, I thought Laja was really, if you watch the Japanese version, like the voice acting in it is pretty excellent, and I just like that whole design with his hands that separate from his body and everything. I thought it was really cool.
So I found our Twitter person here, Eric Silver, at the One Up Beat. He replied with the one word charm, lacking charm. And he's like, it was hard to get into this in Twitter, but he said he thought it was the game had a little bit too much darkness and focus on the evil forces to it. He said there was a big emphasis on the bad guys and not so much on the good guys. Then he goes on to say it was hard to explain, but that's kind of the gist of it. Just this whole theme of darkness with the game.
Okay,
And
I could see that. It had a lot of boss characters in it. If you think about like not just Murdaugh, but like Jamiras and
Oh, these are ones that repeat throughout the series too.
Yeah,
I feel the bosses repeat more throughout the series than even the heroes.
You know, I actually want to touch on that darkness theme a little bit. That's actually kind of where some of the other non-linearity can cause problems. Because, like, you know how you have that one maid in Port Haven where like the mayor thinks she poisoned the dog and then sells her into slavery, and then Johan goes out to save her and you don't hear from them ever again? Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Well, it turns out that plot actually gets resolved. If you go back to that town after you beat Murdaugh and check the house, Johan got her back. Like, he, like, grinded out those levels and just, like, rained holy terror down on, like, the slavers and got Ella back. And there's even a scene where you can walk in on them, like, making out, and they're all embarrassed about it. Not making that up, by the way. That's actually in the game.
Everyone is now pausing the podcast to go watch these two characters make out.
Well, what's the darkness with Terry and his sister? There's something with her, right? I'm bad at remembering the little subplots about. Wasn't she sold or something as a child, or?
Oh, she was captured by the monsters and forced to. I mean, she just essentially did the same thing that they did with Terry, right?
Well,
with
Terry.
a different kingdom.
So basically, Millie was this really beautiful girl, and the old couple needed money or something, so they sold her off, and then Terry got mad about it and tried to rescue her and was beaten to within an inch of his life for his efforts, but he got away and just lived as like an orphan.
Sorry, I was talking about the monsters plot. This goes into the post monsters, like Dragon Quest 6. I see what you're doing. Okay, never mind.
So,
but yeah, it was it's a dark kind of story there. This isn't. Terry grew up in a happy home and became really strong.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
There's a reason he's a dick.
Yeah, it's always Terry's character is very, very interesting in this game because you get him, but you get him very late. So by the time you get him, if you've been doing job class grinding, he's not that powerful, and then you have to start over with his job class grinding kind of late in the game. So he should probably be more powerful when you get him, in my opinion. I don't know if they tweaked that in the DS or mobile versions.
They tweaked that twice, actually. DS version, they just gave him 5 levels, but didn't change anything else. So he just got 5 really bad level ups because his levels are terrible. And then in the iOS version, they leveled him to level 33, but they gave him, complete mastery over all of the 4 basic tier 1 classes. So Mastered Warrior, Mastered Martial Artist, Mastered Mage, and Mastered Priest. So he can just go into any class you want him to, like Oomph from Armamentalist. And he actually is pretty good in the iOS version.
I did use him there. I did not use him at all in the Super Famicom game back in the day. I remember beating that before I played Dragon Quest Monsters, and at that point, now I love Terry. Heck, my kids know that because 2 years ago, I played through the whole 3DS Terry's Wonderland on the computer, so they could gather around me and very largely see on the computer screen as I played it. So they know who Terry is, and they've played him on Dragon Quest Heroes.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's absolute boss in Heroes when it comes to any of the metal monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically metal monsters. The any of the robot monsters, like the
killing machines.
Killing machines. Yeah, exactly. Because he just has this lightning slash that just completely incapacitates them.
You know, I forgot something to talk about when we were talking about the good, because there is something that's like the best in this game. You get to float around on a frickin' bed.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of different means of conveyance. You've got the flying bed in the dream world. You've got the magic carpet, which I think is in both worlds. And then you've got Pegasus, which is like the bed doesn't fly over mountains, but it flies over hills. The carpet, doesn't that fly over everything? Or Pegasus flies over everything?
It's the Pegasus.
Yeah, so then the carpet is just the real world version of the bed?
Basically.
Yeah.
And you have to go through the series' worst mini game in order to get it, unfortunately.
I don't remember.
It's barely even a mini game. The only way it counts is because you can technically lose.
What is it? I don't remember.
The best dressed contest.
Oh, yeah,
oh
that's right.
Yes.
That's right. The fashion. There's like an actual fashion metric in the game.
They invented a whole new stat for it.
Yeah,
too.
there's this.
And those beautiful Beauty Betties or whatever was the item that you could boost the stat with in the remakes.
Exactly. Just for this one game where you press A bunch of times, you press down and then up for a little bit, and then wade through all the text 7 times in a row.
What happens if you lose that contest? You just don't get the flying carpet?
Yep.
But you can do it over and over again until you win?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Well, there's that.
Yeah, imagine repeatedly grinding to get one stat on a character high enough in one thing.
Imagine how much people would hate this game if you only get one shot at that and you can't get the magic carpet and progress to the end.
The end. Oh boy.
Oh man. So let's get to the ugly then. I mean, we mentioned it before, but the having to pay attention to the area-based level caps. Then a game that's so non-linear that you can just get lost. I understand that. The DS and mobile version features a tinging noise in the walking theme music that can be distracting. This was mentioned in Puff Puff Hour a while back. It's hard to describe, but there's something strangely more satisfying. We mentioned to listen to the OST for the Super Famicom version over the DS mobile remake.
Indeed. Fits the dreamy themes better and really unique sound chip.
Yeah. And this is also one of those soundtracks that I can really recommend on piano as well. There's a piano version that's pretty excellent in addition to the orchestral versions. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to mention, what I really want for people to come out listening to this podcast is really just understand what this game originally brought to the series back in 1995 when it was first released. So let me just briefly explain the concept of DQ firsts. So this started out as a list that Ignazio7 and I started putting together on GameFAQs back in 2014 when we used to post a lot on the DQ9 forums. So basically, if you trace the history of the Dragon Quest series, you can look at when the game advanced in some feature or mechanic. For example, Dragon Quest II was the first in the series to feature multiple party members. Dragon Quest III was the first in the series to feature class changing. So there's actually quite a few DQ firsts that Dragon Quest VI accomplished that I don't think that most players tend to gloss over, most likely because it's either not highly regarded as among the series, or that most Western players have only ever played the remake. So here's a series of firsts that Dragon Quest VI brought to the series. It was the first game to feature animated monsters attacking in battle. Most subsequent releases in the main series adopt this feature, including Dragon Quest III Super Famicom re-release, which was released on the same game engine a year after Dragon Quest VI. First Dragon Quest game to now. Fiona Day, we talked about this. Is this pausing the walking theme during battle, or is it playing it on? Is it playing it on mute and then unmuting it after the battle's over? Never remember which it is, but because you get distracted listening to the battle theme, and then you go back and try to remember where it was when it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, which is also that theme. That battle theme is also really intense on piano as well, in the piano soundtrack.
So, yeah, it actually remembers where the song was before the battle happened.
Okay, so it's
goes
pausing.
back to that point.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great, because in a lot of even in some of the remakes where they try to add some of the longer intros, if you're walking around and there are random battles happening, you're not hearing all of that music. It's just restarting from the intro. So in this case, you get that sense that it's just a continual song that just gets paused when the battle starts and then unpaused again. I kind of like that feature a lot.
Indeed.
It was the first Dragon Quest game to show the speed of movement differences, where characters walk faster in towns, castles, towers, and caves, and then slower on the world map, giving the illusion of distance.
Yeah, that was all really cool.
It was the first Dragon Quest game to be developed by Heartbeat, who went on to use the same game engine to give us Dragon Quest III for Super Famicom, which I would argue is still the best version of that game, because it has the animated monsters and the Pachisi tracks, which are missing from each remake after the Game Boy Color version.
Woo, Pachisi tracks. Let me tell you, I think I might have known it, but like it was in the back of my head. I'm working on a huge feature on Dragon Quest for RP Gamer, and trying to like summarize the entire breadth of the entire Dragon Quest series, every game ever that came out, at least in the West. And I was looking up about Fortune Street and everything, and I kind of knew that obviously it started with Dragon Quest, or it was a Dragon Quest property, but I didn't know it was based on the Pachisi tracks.
I didn't know that until you mention it now, but but it makes a lot of sense, because
Like,
essentially it is that. It's a board game. It's a Parcheesi game.
Yep. So I read through the history of it today. I found an article from GameSpot when it came out over here, but I guess it got a lot of attention when it was put into the Super Famicom version in Japan, and Yuji Horii sat down and started a whole side series, and there was like 4 or 5 of the, was it Itadaki Street? That's what it's called over there?
Yeah.
There was about 4 or 5 of them that were released just with, I won't say generic, but non-Dragon Quest characters and whatever, before they hit the DS and were like, hey, or the PS2, and we're like, maybe we should take this little side series that Yuji Horii made, this board game series, and use our own characters for it. And I was kind of blown away by that. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was a game like he kind of invented based on.
Which is basically just a board game that he just stuck into Dragon Quest III in the remake.
Yep, and it became its whole series basically.
Yeah,
there's quite a few of them. I did not know that, but there's quite a few of them out there.
So getting back to Dragon Quest VI first, it was the first game to feature advanced job class tiers that would appear in future games like Superstar or Luminary class in Dragon Quest IX. Ranger, Paladin, Magic Knight or Armamentalist, and Battle Master or Gladiator.
Well, I mean, technically, those job titles appeared in, say, the remakes of the older games. Like, the Prince of Canuck is an armamentalist, apparently.
Is he really?
Yeah, but that would be in the remake that happened after 6, or did that remake come out before 6?
No, the remakes for the iOS versions came out
iOS,
after. But chronologically, it's the second game in the series, even though it's
I mean this list is really about like when we're talking about the Super Famicom version in 1995.
Okay.
I mean, Christo was my original Paladin, right?
It was the first to feature job levels apart from character levels, or level-based caps, where you can advance in job classes in specific areas in the game if your level is too high. But yeah, so they did repeat that in 7, and then they switched it back to a more Dragon Quest III style in 9. It was the first Dragon Quest game to feature a skill system or abilities, which means your characters can now learn special attacks beyond their normal attack, which really just opened up a huge range of possibilities. In this system, this shows up in future releases, including the abilities system in Dragon Quest IX, which was one of the main features of battle in that game. It was the first Dragon Quest game to feature the bottomless inventory bag. So you're welcome, Dragon Quest fans. That's one of the best things ever, just having that bottomless Harry Potter inventory bag, where you can just drop all your stuff in there and just essentially have a vault on you at all times. First Dragon Quest game to feature a memory system. We talked about this earlier via the Remember and Forget ability to remember things that past NPC characters have said. I believe this also might be in Dragon Quest III's remake for Super Famicom that was built on the same game engine. You basically hit one button after you talk to an NPC and they cast Remember, and then you can play back remembered quotes. And you can also choose the Forget spell to clear out some of those older quotes that you might not need. People must not have liked this mechanic in Japan because it didn't make it into the DS remake, but it's always intrigued me that it exists. I think it probably just got replaced with party chat. First Dragon Quest game to feature the Thief class. Thief wasn't added to Dragon Quest III until the Super Famicom remake, which came out a year after Dragon Quest VI. And if any listeners find any Dragon Quest firsts that we missed, hit us up on the comments or Twitter, and let's get a conversation going about them. Do you guys have any other firsts that you can think of offhand?
This is the game that got me to go on to the Dragon's Den. So after beating this, I was like, well, that's it. That's all the Dragon Quests out there. I've done them all. It was the first game that I had nothing else to look forward to, and so I had been on Woodus.com for looking up resources for this game and whatever previously, but that's when I finally bit the bullet, made a account, and 24,000 posts later, here I am.
Nice.
Remind me, was this the first to have an optional ending? An alternate ending?
Oh, alternate ending. Probably, yeah.
But there's
Probably.
that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like an alternate ending that essentially changes the original ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Because when you beat the super boss, he goes back and stomps.
Yeah. If we're gonna spoil it, yeah, basically.
Is there any time where we don't just spoil the hell out of stuff? FionordeQuester already spoiled who the final boss of Dragon Quest Monsters is.
Did he?
Oh no, I didn't I?
Oh yeah, well, come on. 1998. I think you've had time to catch up on that one.
Oh, and this one's 95, so that's even older. Let's go.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Moving right along. All right, so Marry Thwack Puff Puff. Are you ready, FionordeQuester, for this one? Do you know what this game is? Have you, if you've listened to, if you're familiar with the game that we play on occasion and tweet about, this is essentially that kind of murder, fuck, kill. No, marry, fuck, kill. Yeah, you can't have kill twice.
Yeah. Okay, you put kill in there twice.
Yeah. Okay, who would you kill twice and who would you marry? So who would you marry? Who would you thwack or cast beat on? And who would you puff puff? And here's your choices here. We've got Barbara or Ashlyn, Millie, and Madame Luca.
Well, I guess I'd marry Millie. I mean, I like her a lot. Thwack. What does thwack mean again?
Thwack is essentially kill.
Let's
assume that it actually connects. And that's
okay.
Kirill's.
I guess Madame Luca.
You thwack the old lady?
Yeah.
She's had a good long life.
Have as much to live, maybe.
I guess the alternative would be to puff puff Madame Luca.
Yeah, and the puff puff. I don't know. Like, apparently when males do it, it causes damage. So I don't I guess Madame Luca in order to do the thwack.
Is Puff Puff an ability in this game? I don't remember.
It is.
Is
Like,
it? Oh, nice.
I guess if Carver tried to do it, it would definitely cause damage.
yeah, like females, it does what you think it does. But if males try to do it, it goes off the same element as like Knuckle Sandwich, just does a lot less damage.
Cool. Platty, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with what he said. Mary, Millie, thwack, Madame Luca. Puff Puff. We've always left it up to interpretation. Are you giving the Puff Puff or are you getting the Puff Puff? So I'll take a Puff Puff from Barbara. We don't really have a lot of hard and fast rules on this podcast.
Yeah, right. I would marry Barbara or Ashlyn, just because the romantic in me is saying like that is literally the hero's dream girl.
But I'm bummed.
She doesn't have a corporeal form. She's only exists in dream, and they do kind of like give you they give you hints that she's interested in the hero in this one. So I always thought that was kind of that is interesting. And Fiona, you wanted to mention that kind of sad ending with the Ashlyn character?
Well, kind of sort of sad ending, but like it could be either depending on how you want to interpret it, but it's made really clear, especially in the Super Nintendo version, that there's like lots of ways for them to get together. Because, like, when she disappears, the problem she mentions was that she didn't have a body to go back to, and then she just sort of poofs out of existence. But then the castle rises, and in the Super Nintendo, you can even see that it's rising right over some locations you already visited with a shadow and everything. And Peggy Sue goes there, and there she is, all right as rain and everything like that. So, I mean, even if she's somehow not allowed to leave Zenithia, Rex can just go visit her whenever he wants. And also, apparently, she has a connection with the mysterious dragon, if she isn't outright is one.
Now, this is in the remakes, though, right? Like, this was kind of retconned in there, or was this in the original Super Famicom as well? Because we were talking about this before during the sound check.
It was something that was considered for the original game, but ultimately left out of the final product because I guess time and space constraints. But like the reason she stays on the ship is she doesn't know why, but it's so she can be summoned as a dragon when Millie plays the ocarina, which, by the way, never comes up again for some reason. And there's a Sorcerian in Sorceria that says like Sorcerians can split their spirits from their bodies, and the really strong ones can turn into animals with their spirits, and the strongest of them all, like say heir to the Eldris herself, can turn into dragons. And plus there's the fact that she's not on the box art anywhere. It's Rex, Carver, Millie, and the dragon. This very girly looking dragon. Even though she's apparently so important, you can't remove her from your party. And in the remakes, you can actually fly the dragon again. In the Super Nintendo version, well, in all the versions, but Super Nintendo version, you can ride the dragon again even if she's in the party. But in the remakes, the dragon will not show up if Ashlyn is in your party.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I hope so. I know I talk really fast.
No, I think I think that's a really cool twist that I'd never heard before until you mentioned it earlier. Yeah, that's really cool. It makes me appreciate her character more.
Yeah.
Because she is one of the standout characters for me. She knows Magic Burst from the start. I know she's not defensively all that great, but I was mentioning whenever I start that Nocturnus fight, I always just put her in, Magic Burst the hell out of him, and then just swap her out immediately so that he can't damage her, but he just gets a ton of damage at the beginning of the battle.
Now I just turned Carver into a Metal Babble slime and just use Forbearance on most things. Turns out immunity to most attacks works really well with a move that covers the whole party.
I never tried that. I will definitely have to try that one. It sounds similar to the Paladin Night Watch Forbearance from Dragon Quest IX.
I was just thinking of that because when Liam, the one time we met with your friends and we played Dragon Quest IX, that was the only class that I had leveled up to 99. So when we did a couple of the legacy boss battles,
Yeah.
that was my job. Get in there, be the paladin, cast that at certain times.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely saved us more times than I can remember in fights, especially with Nocturnus, where like the RNG could go either way. At 99 Nocturnus, that's just one of the most ridiculously hard battles I've ever fought, and actually sometimes won.
Yeah, that's one of those battles where you really need to know how he operates. In fact, it's one of the first times I ever realized that there was a pattern to the Dragon Quest boss games where I just used the Sands of Time to rewind it infinitely. And that's when I first noticed, hey, it seems like there's a similar sequence of moves sometimes. I wonder if there's something to that. And sure enough, there was. There's even a whole bestiary about it. Gilder's, I think that's on Woodus, Gilder's Monster Guide?
Maybe.
Gilder's Big Book of Beasts.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember that kind of attack pattern where I think he casts Magic Burst and he can attack, I think, up to 3 times at level 99. So he would use that Magic Burst and then immediately just re-up his magic power and his attack power would jack up as well. So yeah, he was definitely one of those bosses you all needed to defending champion against or abuse the Night Watch system for.
Yeah.
I think there was one time when Cyrus from the Dragon Quest group, when he was joining for the first time, me and Drova from the group were explaining how hard Nocturnus was, and then we accidentally went into the fight without a healer. Like we went in with 3 gladiators and a paladin. And we somehow Jar Jarred our way. We Jar Jar Binksed our way into generating the Night Watch enough times where we actually did beat him without a healer.
I mean, Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord, so there you go.
There you go. I did want to mention this, that the Quest of the Stars event for Dragon Quest VI is on through the 7th, so through Monday. This month in September. They actually do have, I've been playing some of it, they do have the opening scene where you're at the campfire and you actually go with Carver and Millie, and then she does the same thing where she throws the ocarina up in the air and then catches it, which I think is really irresponsible. She could have dropped it, could have fallen off the mountain, then you can't summon the dragon. But anyway, they do the whole thing, and
it's got that scene from Chrono Trigger in there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which Chrono Trigger predates 6, right?
It came out the same year, and I looked this up actually because of that joke. In Japan, it came out, I think, February, March, and 6 came out in December.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, shout out a little bit to Austin and BJ. They were talking about this. They did a Chrono Trigger episode a few weeks back, and they were mentioning all the similarities between the games because Yuji Horii helped with some of the game design of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, so it features that festival in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's the festival with in the beginning of Dragon Quest VI you got to go to.
Yeah.
So they were mentioning a couple was he just spewing out ideas to 2 different development teams at the same time? Hey, we need an idea. Which one did I tell what? Oh, well, I'll just tell them both the same thing. Start with a festival, spiky hair. Toriyama, hey, draw this guy with spiky hair.
Cell-looking final boss with green skins and black dots.
Yeah. Well, I also thought if you ever watched the Dragon Quest Abel anime, the character, the mini boss character Moore, who's like Baramos's right hand, or the anime version of Baramos. Mm-hmm. He sort of, when Muto came around as a boss, at first time I saw that, I was like, oh my god, he looks so much like the Moore character. So it almost just looks like a redesign of the Moore character with horns.
And I've watched the first 4 or 5 episodes recently, and not knowing contextually when that was done compared, I just thought it was oh, that's Muto.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's Muto in a floating bubble.
I mean, I'm so used to the Monsters games where, what the heck, I've had everybody in my party at one point. So, they just appear all over the place.
Yeah, but Yeah, I did want to mention that Quest of the Stars has the Dragon Quest VI event, and that there's a lot of that kind of game intro and cameos and overlap and stuff like that to Dragon Quest VI. So definitely check that out.
So is there anything we haven't dug into? Fiona Day, what made you want to do Dragon Quest VI as your big 100% walkthrough? Why that one?
Well, it was the game that I liked the most. And like I figured it was also my very first walkthrough. Like you can tell because I even switched co-commentators like 3 episodes into it, and I wanted my very first like big serious one to be one that I really loved. Like one that I even wrote a guide for on Strategy Wiki. And like I wanted to talk about all those little things that people would miss on their first time through, like the fixed attack patterns, the party chat, what I thought about Millie's backstory, and all that. And there's just a lot of little things to it that aren't immediately obvious, like they are in the other titles that I just really wanted to share. And plus, it's generally regarded as one of the harder games, but I show many different ways of like if you really want to, you can beat that game with almost no grinding at all. And most people don't know that. And I wanted to show them how it could be done. So it was kind of cool in that way.
Nice. I'm watching one of your ones right now, part 10. It looks like Amos is in your first party member. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the better ones, actually.
See, yeah.
He starts out with more bulk than Carver with how low my levels are, because guys, I beat Murdoch at like level 13. Like that's really low, and I beat him without casino gear.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything else about this game that I remember. So can you rename the stack in this game?
Yeah, actually you can. I remember seeing a couple of funny screenshots for the Super Famicom version where people said like renamed it ass or something like that. You're like, it's like Carver places the weapon in your ass or something like that.
It's also the one where the merchants will be like, "There's always more room in your ass." I want to see that. Like, if you're like, "Do you want to equip this item now?" And he's like, "No." Okay, well, I'll put it in your ass. There's always more room in your ass. Because I am definitely someone who did that, renamed that ass. I couldn't remember which DQ game it was. It was either 5 or 6. I remember,
I think it was this one, and then you might have been able to do it in the third game, Super Famicom remake, because I know you could rename. I think you could rename at the Shrine of Dharma.
Yep.
In both games.
This is definitely. I played this right around when the GBA.
There's always more room in your ass.
That reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. Accidental jokes where I ask guys, are like, our whole party just went into that bed. How did they do it?
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about that a lot in Dragon Warrior 3 because I'm playing through that with my son. And Erdrick's mom is always like, "Oh yeah, your friends should stay too." And I'm like, where? Are they all cramming into one bed, or the hero sleeps in the bed and the friends just like chill on the floor?
You got that issue in Dragon Quest VII too, with your parents in the house in Fishbell.
Yeah. That house is pretty small too. Where are all these people staying?
Oh, but
they're all sleeping in the bag.
No.
There's always more room in the bag.
It's like a Harry Potter tent in there. You go inside. It's a TARDIS. It's larger on the inside.
Actually, Final Fantasy VII had a gag about that in one of their cut scenes, where like they witness, like, you guys know who Cloud is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa walk into each other as normal and walk off with only Cloud, and then some NPCs look at them. They look at each other, and then they walk into each other and bump into each other, and like, ow! How do they do it? Shame it was cut.
Did you see there was a game glitch that somebody on Reddit discovered recently where after battle the hero will continue to have his sword drawn, but it'll be like piercing him. So he has his sword drawn after the battle, but it's like stabbing himself with it. There's a couple of really funny screenshots. I tweeted it out the other day, where it's just like the the hero's got it stabbed through his own chest while Serena is there like crying. It's just like perfectly positioned. And then there's another one where he's got the giant dark sword, and it's stabbed through his own face. It's like coming out the back of his head.
You gotta link me that stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely. I tweeted it out the other day. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
But a user discovered it on Reddit.
You know what? I feel like I remember that from years ago when it first came out. Like people with the PS4 share button were, what the heck is this? It's probably even easier now with the Switch to just click that and have it uploaded in a few minutes.
Yeah, Freddy Freaker was the Redditor that discovered it.
Nice.
Yeah, he's got a couple. If you go to the Dragon Quest Reddit, he's got a couple of screenshots in there. They're all pretty funny. But getting back to, were there any bugs or anything in Dragon Quest VI that were particularly funny?
Let me think. There was the parry. There's sort of this glitch with the equip command where if you enter the equip menu, it recalculates your defense. So if you had a lot of buffs up, it would get rid of them. But if you had a lot of saps on, it would also get rid of those. So it was minorly helpful for bosses like, say, the third trial, which cast Kasap on you every round. That was really good.
That was if you go to the item menu in battle?
No, if you go to the equip command.
Oh, okay.
Wait, all you have to do is press on it. You don't need to do anything else. Just press equip, then back out, and there you go.
Huh. That's convenient.
Indeed. All right.
Yeah, I mean, everything else I remember was just because of the translation. There was, it never got a complete fan translation, did it?
I don't think so. There was
Super Famicom.
No progress version was the one that I remember playing.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point it craps out in terms of like there's a
whole town that isn't done.
Well, there's one town where like the character says like, well, that's the end of the translation, which really takes you out of the game. But then it's weird because it continues for like 70% more of the game after that guy says that. So I think that was like something they built in when they hit a stopping point, and then they were going to go back later and they just forgot to take it out.
That was one of my favorite gags right there. Like, Skyzo's reaction was hilarious.
You have that in your videos?
Yeah, we do.
Nice. Now, if I'm not mistaken, was that a town that you drop into the other world, and you really didn't have a need to go there?
I think that's the town you get the boat in or something, or
no, it's where you get the sword. Turnscote.
Okay.
So it's a town you have to go through with dialogue you have to get in order to get the sword. Speaking of which, that actually has an interesting moment. Did you know in the Super Nintendo version, if you lose to Duran, he takes your legendary equipment away from you?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that before, but
well, yeah, this was Super Nintendo era. Like,
that's harsh. And you can't get it back.
Well, I mean, you can get it back, but you have to beat him first.
Oh, why am I blanking on the name of the game? Not Paladin's Quest. Square Enix had a Seventh Saga. That's it. Seventh Saga for Square Enix published it. It wasn't anything, or not Square Enix. Enix published it back in the Super Nintendo days. And
back before they became Squares.
Yeah.
Nice.
But they had a mechanic where there was, I think there were 7 heroes, and you played as 2 of them throughout the game, but you'd encounter the other 5 throughout the game, and your goal going through the game was to get these 7 orbs, and the orbs were insanely useful. Like if you got, I can't remember which color did what, but if you got the blue one, basically it was a free heal spell that you could use every round forever in battle, and if you got another one, it was like a free double your attack spell. So you had all these orbs that you'd be collecting throughout the game. There's a point, but if you encountered one of the other characters randomly in towns, they'd be interspaced through towns throughout the world, and if they beat you, they would take all those orbs away. And then you had to fight that guy without the use of all your free spells,
right? To get it back, right?
To get it back, and they nerfed or they didn't nerf, they buffed the difficulty for the North American release, so it's like famously known as like one of those ridiculously hard games. And I remember that was part of it because crap, if I made the mistake of talking to one of those guys, and I don't know why I ever did, but I have a feeling that there was a reason you had to talk to them or something, but they would just attack you and you made that loss and you saved the game. Well, too bad. You're gonna have one hell of a time getting that stuff back.
See, that one, there was sort of your level ups were supposed to increase in quality once you hit level 10, then increase again once you hit level 20. So you get like 8 HP per level up for levels 1 to 9, and then 9 HP for 10 to 19, and etc. They took that out of the game, but forgot to do the same for the apprentices.
So
I think that's what you ran into. So on the plus side, it also meant really powerful partners if you could get them to join you.
I think that was the thing. Like, you'd be going through and you're like, oh, maybe I want this guy instead right now as an apprentice. And so that's why you would talk to them, but
better save your game.
Yeah.
And they also buffed some of the monsters, too. Like, you know those Joker-looking guys called sages with the firebirds and all that?
That sounds familiar, because I've looked this up recently for some other reason.
Those guys had, like, 60 magic in the Japanese version and 110 in the localization. So they just do obscene amounts of damage. And I mean obscene.
Jeez. Well, if we're talking about 7th Saga and that difficulty spike, then I think we might have come to the end of our Dragon Quest VI episode tonight. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about Dragon Quest VI?
Nothing in particular. Actually, I think I need to be headed out soon. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Right.
So we'll wrap it up. That's it for this episode of Slime Time. We do want to thank our friend FionordeQuest for joining us here to talk about Dragon Quest VI.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much,
Anytime.
Fiona Day. You can check out his Dragon Quest VI Let's Plays on YouTube.
Yeah, you might have noticed that the only time we mention Patreon in our episodes is when we say we don't use Patreon. We're just longtime fans that want to speak about the game series we know and love so much. So if you have any money that you'd like to donate, consider sliding on over to the Dragon's Den at www.woodus.com/den. Click on Support This Site. Woodus has owned and maintained the Dragon's Den DQ fan site for over 20 years. I'm sure he'd appreciate any donation, or if you don't want to do that directly, you can use his Amazon affiliate links. Buy Dragon Quest XI's, any of the 3DS titles, whatever. He's got a ton of different affiliate links to Amazon Dragon Quest stuff there, and a small fraction of the sale will go to help support the Den.
And if you're an advertiser and you're looking for a great podcast to spend lots of ad revenue on, reach out to us at slimetimepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any comments or questions for us, you can find us on Twitter at Plattym3 or at Riamu or hit us up both simultaneously at DQ Slime Time.
Consider joining in tons of DQ discussions at the Dragon's Den forums, one of the few remaining forums still around. You can find it from the Dragon's Den main page, or just go directly to www.woodus.com/forums. I'm there crazily posting all the time. I got myself a new non-Pokemon game today. I'll be posting about that, I'm sure, Nexomon, and sure there's always people talking about lots of other stuff, especially where, to date this title exactly, the Nintendo Direct dropped today about all the Mario stuff coming out this year and next year, so lots of people talking about that.
And something like 7 or 8 Dragon Quest games that we may or may not see. We'll see.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody that made this possible, like Brian, a.k.a. Woodus, for his support of the series and this podcast and keeping the Dragon's Den's lights on for decades.
Thanks to Amanda Lepre and the Descendants of Erdrick for allowing us to use their music for our podcast. Descendants of Erdrick is a video game tribute band from Austin, Texas. Check them and their most recent album, Advent, out at www.descendantsoferdrick.com or on Twitter at doferdrick. And check out Amanda Lepre on Twitch.
Our thanks, of course, always to Dwayne Bullock, our wonderful graphic artist, Dragon Quest fan, for making the awesome artwork cover for the podcast. Dwayne was on the original iteration of Slime Time Podcast, and if our secret episode ever gets to go out, he's on that one too, so maybe you'll hear him soon. You can check out more of his work at Dwayne Art on Instagram or on his website at dwaynebullocart.bigcartel.com.
And if you're looking at for more Dragon Quest Slime Time, check out our earlier episodes on Dragon's Den, Anchor FM, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and more.
Bye, everybody.
Dragon Quest Slime Time, sliming off.